On Tuesday, May 3rd, the Realtor members of the GRRA converged for their monthly luncheon, where they also collected donations as part of the GRRA RCSC food drive. But the main event was the special presentation hosted by representatives from UNCG. They were there to discuss the school's $200 million development plan for the Glenwood neighborhood. Here are some highlights from the discussion.
But in 2009, we underwent a strategic planning process, and in that process, we determined that we weren't housing enough of our own students. Our students were living. We have an enrollment of about 18,500 this year, and we have campus housing of about 4,300 beds. So that means 14,000 of our students live somewhere else besides campus property. But we learned that students are more successful if they do live in campus housing. And the short version of that is that if a student is engaged in the campus, in student activities and in the campus life, they're significantly more likely to be successful, to graduate or to find themselves and transfer to where they need to be, but to be successful as students. If you live in campus housing, you're significantly more likely to be engaged. And so we're one step away from student success and housing students. That's the short version. I can assure you that on campus we can give you days worth of committee work and statistics that show you other reasons why our plan leads us to want to house nearly twice as many students as we house now. And when you look at this master plan, there's not a place to put that many more student housing facilities. What I show you here is the Greater Glenwood Neighborhood Plan. They too have a master plan. And this is what the Glenwood neighborhood envisions itself as being in the future. This is not a map that's color-coded with current zoning. This is a map that's color-coded in the way that shows what the Glenwood neighborhood would like to be in the future. And when you read that plan, you'll find that along Lee Street here, this is Lee, here's the Coliseum, this is Coliseum Drive, and this is Freeman Mill. You can probably tell me better than I can tell you, but I'm pretty sure the Glenwood neighborhood is the largest neighborhood in Greensboro with respect to acreage. Along Lee Street here, this lighter color, pink area, is an area that they call mixed-use residential and in their neighborhood plan. And in that plan, if you were to read it, you'd see that for this pink area, they state this would be a wonderful place for a higher education institution to take place in helping to redevelop. We had talked with neighborhood leadership about our plans. We want to come up with a way to develop into the Lee Street corridor and along this northern edge of Glenwood, and we'd like to talk to you about how to do that. And one of the things we heard was it's going to be hard to talk to us without a picture. So you're going to have to show us what you have in mind. And so that's why we had the designers come up with this plan, read the other plans. So we showed up with this plan, and we found out pretty quickly that it wasn't perfect yet. We thought we had done well because we'd done our homework, done all the textbook work, but we found that it still wasn't perfect yet. We also found that there were some people who would prefer that we not even cross the tracks. But for the most part, as the Glenwood Neighborhood Plan calls for, we found that there was a great deal of support for UNCG having an influence on the redevelopment in this area. So we went back to the drawing board, but this time we started by having some open public sessions, some workshops, and some of you may have attended them or at least heard about them. We had some public meetings where the neighborhood came and was able to voice their concerns and point out what about this wasn't good and what about it is good. And we also had workshops where we had huge maps and these buildings were movable. And so we had workshops where folks could come rearrange this in any way, any creative way they saw fit. And that told us a lot about what the neighborhood and the other stakeholders valued. And we came back with a new plan. Again, here's the water tower, Aycock, Tate Street, Lee Street, the railroad corridor. Short version of what changed is, first of all, it shrank. There were 2,400 beds, seemed to be just a little overpowering and too much volume to get done without having a negative impact on the neighborhood. One of the negative impacts the neighborhood felt would be to have a parking garage. In this plan, there's a parking garage shown here, but we heard loud and clear from the neighborhood that parking garage comes with negative connotation. We moved the rec center. The rec center used to be located over here. We moved it further west because it was important to the neighborhood that we not put the rec center right on Glenwood. We wanted it on Glenwood because that's right across from where the underpass is going to be, the tunnel. So we wanted to use that tunnel as a navigation tool for the north side of the railroad tracks to get to this rec center. But it was important to the neighborhood that this big building not be on Glenwood Avenue, where you enter the neighborhood from the north. And so the compromise from our perspective was to move the rec center further west. And there are several other changes. You'll notice we go around this area. This section of Glenwood and Lexington Avenues has some houses on it that are important to the neighborhood fabric. It's predominantly where the only owner-occupied residents were in this area. And so, and most importantly, it's where the Glen is. This area right here is totally undeveloped stream, and some magnificent trees make up the Glen on this northern side of Glenwood. And we had honored the Glen in the previous plan. You can see we had thought we would do some pretty green stuff. That wasn't going to cut it. And I agree. I think something a little more natural is in order, and so does Glenwood.